So, real estate professionals across Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, and the US, I'd like to do an official welcome to none other than Phil Harris. Phil, great to have you here this morning.
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
And
Pleasure to be involved.
Yeah, excellent. This is part of our Navigate series, which is really designed for the real estate profession to help give you access to great strategy, great perspective, and also is there an opportunity to shift your mindset into a different direction to take away something. And you know, our goal today in interviewing with Phil is to share some of the journey, Phil, that you've been on, both from a leadership point of view and also shine the torch on sales performance and some of those key qualities that come through. And for you who are tuning in to see, can we take something away from this and apply it in an effective way? So Phil, Adelaide Marketplace, Harris Real Estate, you've been doing some great things in the marketplace over there. Yeah,
look, it's been good. We were talking before we kind of officially got started. So, you know, the really brief background of Harris, we've just finished our 10th year. So it's been around for a decade, which I think is, for anyone who's been in business, I think the first decade is a good milestone to get across the line. So we've had some good growth in that time. We were saying before about 175 staff. We're an independent. We're doing about 2,000 sales per year and about 3,000 properties under management. So that journey, we've certainly had some pretty significant bumps along the way, but there's also been some good times as well. So it's been a fantastic ride so far.
Yeah, great. So Phil, let's do this in two parts. Firstly, talk about you, leadership, some of the lessons you've learned, and clearly this is a time that I think a lot of businesses can lean into that leadership learnings and leadership lessons. And the second part, we'll actually get into some agent performance kind of aspects and strategies. So, sure. So leadership, it's an interesting time right now from a market point of view and from a business point of view.
Yeah, it is very interesting. I think that probably the best way that I've kind of some of the conversations I've been having with people, you know, talking about, you know, the COVID environment that we entered going back kind of early in the year, February, March, was that I think the biggest observation of probably, you know, not only businesses and leaders, but individuals, I feel like that the current set of circumstances that we've got, it really just kind of polarized or over accentuated of what people were became more of that. And so I think that in the better organizations and the better leaders and the better salespeople, certainly my observation has been that, you know, those that were strong leaders, like led really well and became stronger and got proactive and got on the front foot, which by the way, I'm not, you know, I don't encourage overly, you know, ridiculous positive behavior. Like there are some really tough situations across the country, but still great leaders just make the best of whatever environment that you're in, you know? So I feel as though, people became more of what they were. So people that were strong leaders became better. And then you saw organizations where, you know, some organizations really went into total capitulation of just not knowing how to handle it, and the leadership was poor, and we've seen that fall out of that. But just as with salespeople, I think I saw some really good salespeople have just gotten on with it and made the best of the situation and are setting themselves up for kind of post-COVID. And other people kind of contracted and found it really, really difficult and went into that negative behavior. So I think, there's probably never been a more critical time for, not only business leadership, but self-leadership, whatever role you're in, is the opportunity, right now to make the most of a tricky situation.
And Phil, you're right. So for the agents who are tuned in here to this, there's no question that they're looking directly, the clients are looking for you for leadership. And now more than ever before, there needs to be a level of confidence and direction and hand-holding with clients to help them through that journey.
Yeah, and I speak about that regularly, saying that clients aren't looking for over-the-top, ridiculous optimism, but they're certainly looking for agents at the moment that can metaphorically take them by the hand and navigate and lead them through this process. And that is, I think also particularly with clients at the moment, that the language that's coming out of their mouth is not necessarily what they're really meaning when they say, we don't really need to sell, we're not sure. Well, there's a lot of people that actually do want to get their property sold, and it's kind of they're looking for an agent. So, righto, okay, well, you don't have to sell right now, but if you were going to, it's still actually a good market. There's limited stock available. There are buyers out there. There are a few things we need to talk about to actually mitigate the risk and do it properly. But here's a really clear plan. And here's what I'm doing for most of my clients at the moment. We're getting good results. Those agents that are proactive in that approach still seem to be getting, good results.
Yeah. And I'm talking a lot about market dynamics and market intel. And basically asking clients the question, where's your main knowledge source of property information right now? And they go, that's interesting. It's the media. Okay, well, maybe I could become that knowledge source for you and share what's really happening from a market dynamics in your suburb or your area, which is
and the other thing, like you're saying there, and why that's such a great strategy, because there's probably never been a better time, Michael, where so many people are just so receptive to have that conversation right now. People are happy to say, actually, you know what? Yeah, I'll give you 5 or 10 minutes now. Give me an update. What is happening in the market? They're happy to hear and have that conversation right now. So great strategy. I like it.
We sort of headed to the agent stuff already, Phil.
Yeah, I can't help it. It's a biased narrative.
That's great. So let's talk about you as a leader and some of the things that you put in place or that you're doing to make sure that you're in the best frame of mind, best physical shape to be able to work with 175 people on that particular journey of their success.
Well, I mean, for me, the leadership space, I think that I've always focused first and foremost. It's a personal focus first. Like you can't give what you don't have. That's always been my philosophy around leadership. So if your tank is empty and if you're not replenished, and if you're not in a good way yourself, it's very hard to be able to lead, whether it be 5 people or whether it be 170 or whether you be a CEO of a listed company with a couple of thousand staff. So kind of the first core principle for me is taking care of myself. So I take that very, very seriously. So in terms of making sure I'm very balanced in the exercising plan, I'm big on the basics of sleep, diet and exercise. And I've always found that when my personal life is in the best state, that enables me to lead and add value and be more caring and considerate of others when I'm in a good way. So I think too many leaders that I see, they're kind of running around trying to help, trying to serve, but they are not actually taking care of themselves. And at some point, you'll hit a burnout or you'll hit a wall, particularly the environment that we've been through, Michael. I was talking to my general manager about this the other day. Like I almost got decision fatigue going through, what were we, a month or 2? I mean, normally I think you're probably making 50 decisions a day as a business leader or those sorts of things. But I think through the COVID period, we're probably making 500 decisions per day. And it almost becomes this like fatigue. Like you get to a point, you go to a restaurant or takeaway, I can't even make a decision what I eat for dinner because I'm out of decision-making ability, So, so I take that very seriously myself. If I can get myself right, then I'm of greater service and greater value to others. And I've got really clear strategies in those areas. Like I have a life plan that I stick pretty aggressively to, Michael, which is about diet, sleep, exercise, and some of the routines that help me well around, getting my sleep and having a morning routine and just things that are important to me and simplifying. So me first. Sounds selfish, but it's not. Me first.
Every time I got onto an aircraft, which is not a lot right now, they always say, make sure you fit your own oxygen mask before you help others. And there's a little metaphor in there, I think, to make sure, are we looking after ourselves to bring the best version of ourselves to the team?
And I think, and part of that as well, is just having your own personal growth plan. And I think that was really important for me during this COVID period, is that, I'm working on, running around trying to help as many people as I possibly can navigate the situation, but just having my own personal education plan that sits outside of the day-to-day real estate business. And that might be as simple as, learning better Zoom skills. It might be learning better, tech or whatever it might be. But I've always got 2 or 3 little educational things on the go that is enabling me to continue to grow as well. And I think that kind of helps me keep putting one foot in front of the other, knowing that hopefully I'm a little bit better than what I was the day before.
That's great, Phil. So therefore you're bringing the best version of you into the business, and I love the fact that, well, what can I work on to upgrade? Because a lot of time leaders look to the team and say, you need to work on this skill, you need to work on this, but don't direct it to me. But the mirror work that you're talking about there is, well, hang on, I upgrade, the team naturally upgrades. So is there a leadership philosophy that you therefore bring into the business?
Yeah, definitely. I think when people talk about now, I do a lot of reading, a lot of studying courses around leadership, and you know, it sounds like there's this kind of buzzword type conversation about leadership, but in the kind of the simple things, if I think about kind of a strategy, is I think that you do have to have a philosophy around what leadership means to you, and for a lot of people that can mean different things, but ultimately for me, the philosophy that I take on board is like you need to have a biased narrative towards simply serving, growing, and helping as many people as you possibly can. And so I think from a leadership perspective, some of my guys ask me, well, Phil, how do you know what to do in this situation? How'd you do this? How'd you do that? It's almost like I've got like a default fallback position is, if in doubt, how can I help serve, grow, and build this individual right now? And we've all heard that kind of analogy. How do you make every person leave just a little bit better off because they've met you in that interacting moment? And I think that too many people look at leadership as feeling as though you have to have these kind of Braveheart moment conversations where every moment of leadership is a, Steve Jobs Stanford graduation seminar presentation, like, okay, that's not what leadership is. And so for me, I think it's dealing with real people in real time, irrespective of whoever they are in my organization. So across those 200 people, whether it's the newbie who's just starting or someone who's been for a long time, how can I just add a little bit of value in that moment? And just sometimes it's just make somebody feel a little bit better than what they were feeling 5 minutes before about themselves. And I think that for most people that I work with, most of my day is spent purely trying to get people to see the potential of what I see in them. And so if you can help people to see a greater version of themselves and connect them with that vision, and whatever that might be, and that's different for every single person. Some people are wanting to be the next James Tostovan and write $5 million a year. For some people, they're a single mom with 2 kids and they're just grateful that they've got a job and they'd love to improve a little bit more. But if that's your philosophy, which is I want to serve, grow, and help, and that kind of, and by the way, that's not something you should really try hard at. So I don't wake up every day and go, okay, today I'm going to have integrity. Today I'm going to try and help, serve, and grow. But if it becomes a lifestyle for you, then that's a leadership philosophy. And that's, that's how I try and live my life every day. That's my view around it.
So Phil, what I love about this, and I'm sure everyone's written those down. So I wrote down serve, grow, help, and build were the biggies that I took away from that. When you're in that mode, people will be looking forward to your one-on-ones. We'll be looking forward to a conversation with Phil. I think this is a really important point. Whereas I know some principals and leaders say, come into my office, the blinds get turned, and they know, oh no, it's going to be one of those conversations that is going to be heavier than it actually needs to be. But coming from that intentionality, the other thing I love is that a lot of the time leaders are focused on their vision. What you're focused on is unlocking the vision for that particular individual, and then seeing that vision and helping them realize that and work towards it. Amazing leadership and coaching skill, by the way, too.
I think it's like it's subconsciously written into every human being's DNA. I believe, like, everybody wants progress, but I think that we mistake that, not everybody wants to be, everybody's version of progress is different. But yeah, people are at their happiest and at their best when they're progressing in their life. And that's not just real estate. If you're serious about leadership, it's like, okay, well, how can I help you in your family life? Is it your health? Is it your well-being? If you've got a good financial plan in place, okay, now let's talk about your career. But everybody's at a different level. And yeah, what can you do just to simply help people just progress just a little bit more?
And Phil, what I love about this, Coach the Coach, interesting enough that we chatted before we actually started. I talk about the difference between deal support and performance coaching. And a lot of the time, principals are in that mode of deal support. How's the next deal? Where's the next deal? Where's the next deal? What I love about this conversation, this is all performance coaching. This is all, tell me about you. Where are you at? What's on your mind? What's your financial plan look like? This has got nothing to do with the deal, but it's got everything to do with the deal, because when that's right, all of a sudden I bring a better version of me into that particular space.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that in a moment when we talk specifically about sales. But it's funny, I've probably kind of changed my philosophy around sales and performance a little bit over the last decade as well. And it's like, it's if you talk to real estate agents, it's most people, it's not that they don't know what they should be doing to be more successful. The issue is not that they're, don't know what to do. The issue is they're not doing what they know they should be doing. Like I've been doing this for 20 years. You've been doing it longer than me, Michael. And the actual fundamentals of what it takes to be a successful real estate agent, they haven't really changed in 20 years.
Right.
Prospect, list and sell, prospect in the morning, get out face to face in the afternoons. But it's people's personal lives and blockages that are getting in the way of undertaking the behaviours of what it takes to be successful. So I think if you can start to unlock those things and say, hey, let's get you more balanced, let's get you more settled over there, coming into the office and following some of these basic behaviours that we'll talk about in a moment, it's not that challenging.
Yeah, agreed. So in your briefing notes to me before this, you talked about your leadership framework, having a leadership framework. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I think I'm a very structured person. That's the way I'm wired. Like things need to be in boxes, So I need to know what, I like to have a framework around things. And so when I talk about a leadership framework, for me, it's what are like the 4 or 5 key tools that I'll regularly use around that leadership space. And so for me, it's the basics of getting ideal weeks and meeting rhythms in place, right? Meaning that if you are going to be a leader, there are certain groups of people that you need to be engaging with on a daily basis, right? And a weekly basis. So making sure you've got structure so that you're getting in front of the right people at the right time and having the right conversations each and every single day, each and every single week. So I've got 4 or 5 tools that I use. That might be making sure my ideal weeks are right. I regularly use walk and talk as a strategy, right? So I find that if I want to have a conversation with somebody, particularly around really, really influencing somebody, like the power of influence is really important. So my organization, if we're trying to get a new concept across our sales team, that might be, a new VPA product. It might be a new process. It might be like, if I'm the key influencer, I need to make sure I'm in front of those correct people, but I'll do walk and talk. So like the old Steve Jobs strategy, which is grab somebody, I'll regularly, if you come down to Kent Town, you see me walking the streets of Kent Town one-on-one with staff, getting them out of the office environment, getting them to open up, getting the body moving so that they actually change their physiology, those sorts of things, if I'm trying to influence somebody in a particular way. So there are 2 things. And I've got like daily routines. So I've got a series of things to go. They're basically my 4 or 5 key tools that I'll use to run my leadership framework. So even though people who might observe me might think that it's quite fluid and it's quite random, generally speaking, I'm using, one of, 4 or 5 key tools in my leadership strategy on a daily basis.
And I'd imagine, Phil, that's evolved over time where, and occasionally step back from it and say, okay, let's look at the bigger picture. Where are we heading and how do we actually get there? Yeah. One of the things that I love is this concept of, and I do it at the beginning of each year, I assume the way I've been working has been totally ineffective. So this could be a good strategy for those who have tuned in. And it doesn't mean that I have been ineffective, but it just gives the freedom to say, how would I recreate this? What would be the new version? And I think, listening to you today, it's a really neat opportunity for people to stress test how is their week set up, or how's their month set up, or even how's the quarter set up, to make sure those meeting rhythms are in play to deliver the things that need to be in place. And I love the fact you talked about who are the key people in the business that I need to make sure I'm in front of, I'm influencing, to be able to get the traction that needs to happen on a new idea, a new concept, or something being implemented successfully.
Because I think with that leadership role, Michael, you're exactly right. And I kind of use meeting rhythms as the analogy of like, when you're a kid, you go bowling at the bowling alley and they put those rails on the side of the bowling, and that just kind of keeps you on track. And leadership, there's reactive work and there's proactive work. The proactive work is you've got the right meetings and you've got the right agendas and the right people in the room to keep delivering your core key messages. And then when there's reactive things that evolve, whether it be an issue with a support member, whether it be recruitment, you've got 4 or 5 key strategies for how you're dealing with it. So for me, I take that kind of structured approach and the fluidity approach to the leadership space.
Excellent. So if there were 2 or 3 things that you're focused on in your day, so you've got the structure in place, have you got sort of some radar issues that you've focused on?
Yeah, and so then I just break it down to simple things. And by the way, I'm so far from perfect, Michael. I'm absolutely flawed. Rarely do I get it right on a daily basis, but I try and think as a leader. Like if I was coaching you as a salesperson, Michael, I could absolutely clearly say there are probably 4 or 5 things that we need you to get right every day as a salesperson, right? Just focus on these. Don't have lots, but we need to get you to do these 3 to 5 things every day. And so I have those things in my leadership space. So first and foremost for me, every day, I've got these documented in my diary. They pop up as an all-day appointment just to kind of keep me aligned on them. First one is around just moving the business forward, daily improvement, whatever you want to call it, right? So I want to make sure that Harris Real Estate is a better organisation than what we were yesterday. So we are structured in terms of the business strategy, the business plan. So our business and leadership team, we have very clear priorities with everybody on that team who's got 3 projects that they need to deliver on a quarterly basis. Those projects are linked to our 1-year goals. The 1-year goals are linked to our 3-year, to our 5 years, to our big, hairy, audacious goals, for lack of a better word, right? So first core focus for me is that daily improvement. So what have I done? Either the projects that I'm working on or overseeing the people in our team, just to make sure that there is progression. And that's no different to the philosophy that we spoke about before in terms of every individual wants progress, right? People want a vision, people want to have progress, and I'm no different. So if I go to bed at night and I hit the pillow and I go, we are a better company than what we were yesterday because we've just moved a couple of slight things forward. Might be a better checklist, might be a better improvement on the business plan. It might be I had a cup of coffee with a potential salesperson, recruit. But what have we done today to move the business forward in terms of progression? So that's my...
Gil, can I just jump in on this one? One of the things that I talk about in our leadership work that we do is an unhealthy discontent versus a healthy discontent for the present. So an unhealthy discontent for the present is basically, as a leader, you walk in as a grumpy bum and say, and no one wants to be around that particular leader. It's step aside, hide kind of thing. What you've just demonstrated there is the energy of healthy discontent. So a healthy discontent means we're here today and we're on the move. We're going somewhere. So how are we going to improve today? What are we going to do to shift the needle? Is there a quick win we can put in place? Is there something that we can do with that? So to take it on board, and those who are tuned in, it's a really neat distinction, Phil, that you're leaning into that healthy discontent. And it is one of the key qualities that make organisations great, which is awesome.
I think as well, you would have heard the saying many times, you've used it before, I'm sure, Michael, saying that most people overestimate what they can achieve in a year and they underestimate what they can achieve in a decade. And there's obviously the great book written by Jim Collins, Good to Great. He talks about the flywheel concept in there, that great businesses are built on decades of small daily improvements, not this one magical moment where, one day somebody walks in with this kind of brain numbing idea that just moves the company from being a $5 million revenue to 50 million overnight. But it's businesses that have this core philosophy and individuals, which is little bits of improvement every day. But it's hard to get excited about small improvements if you don't understand the concept, because you don't reap the benefits then and there. It's all of those small dailies add up over a year, over 5 years, over a decade. And then before you know it, you've built a world-class organization, but it happens on a daily basis. And so that's the key thing for me. How do we get small daily improvements continually? Yeah. Overestimating. Yeah, it's hard to kind of change the game in a year. But if you put all those kind of daily improvements over a decade, you can do some pretty cool stuff. So that's kind of first key thing for me, which is that we're improvements. Second thing I focus on every day is just engaging with stakeholders, right? Stakeholders are team members, right? And knowing, I love all of our staff, absolutely, right? But there is a reality in your business. There are certain stakeholders that we should be getting more of your time and more of your energy, right? Everybody is of equal value as a human being, but not everybody is of equal value in terms of the value that they bring to you and your organization. So those key stakeholders, I need to be continually making sure that I'm engaging with those people every single day, because they are the ones that really influence my business. And so I've got that mindset. Who are the internal stakeholders that I need to engage with?
And Phil, I talk about something called MVPs, who are your most valuable players.
Yeah.
So, and what are you doing with your MVPs to make sure and I love that you use the word engage. So how are you engaging those particular stakeholders? Two reasons. One is they feel a sense of ownership of the business, is fair to say. So even if they don't own the business, they feel that particular area, and they can contribute ideas and innovations. And they're probably also the people that, if you've got something new to put in place, they're the ones who'll be the cheer squad and the movers and the shakers to make something happen.
Yeah, and that's right. They're the key influences in your business, and it's like there's probably in an organisation like mine, there's probably half a dozen absolutely imperative people in our organisation that, if my phone rings, I'm a busy guy, but if the phone rings from those stakeholders, I'm all over it. Or if they leave a message, I'm going to get back straight away. And it's not pandering, but it's knowing that they are the people of influence, and they're the ones that are going to be pivotal in taking us to the next level where we want to be. So they're kind of two things. Third thing I focus on is just external talent, right? So every day, number one, are we improving? Number two, internal stakeholders. And third is, what am I doing to continually be attracting external talent to the organisation? So how do I make sure that the best talent, either existing in the real estate industry in South Australia or new talent about to, that we are on the front foot engaging with those people about joining our organisation. And it's probably taken me a long time to get to the level of where I'm at now, Michael. I'm just actually defining where I should be spending my time and energy. But I know that if we're improving, if I'm engaging with key people and I'm attracting new people to the business, that's all I really need to be focusing on as the leader of the organisation.
Yeah, Phil, this has been an awesome leadership conversation and so much practical take home. Guys, as we start to shift our focus from the leadership and now sort of shine the torch on sales, I'd love just to see in the chat, what are your key takeaways from the leadership component to what Phil talked about? Now, effectively, we're going to look at leadership as well from a now sales point of view, and how do we actually start to bring out the best in other people from a sales perspective. What I love, Phil, is you've got those three things on your radar. I also think it's fantastic you've got them in your diary as sort of like all-day commitments. So it's sort of like, what have I done this hour? Or what am I doing to advance these particular three?
And I get it wrong all the time, Michael, so I'm certainly not professing to be perfect at it, but it's just like that North Star alignment of coming back, going, hang on, because we all get a bit lost from time to time. Hang on, is what I'm doing right now, does it fit under either any of those three categories? And if it doesn't, should I really be focusing on that,
Look, Phil, if you're doing 50 to 75% towards those, wow, does that make a difference in the business? And I think sometimes people get really stressed around ideal weeks because no, my ideal week doesn't work. The reason it doesn't work is because it's never going to turn out the way that you want it to. It's a guidance system to help you navigate through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, all good.
So let's head into agents now. A large team of agents. You've got some amazing momentum. Somewhere around 1,500 sales annually. So there's some serious momentum that you've been able to create in the business. Clearly, that's allowed you to see and also coach some key frameworks that allow agents to be successful. Love to get into that.
Yeah, I think that like when I've been observing salespeople now for a couple of decades, I probably sold a lot of property for about a 13-year period myself. I don't really sell these days. I'll do the occasional one where people want me to be involved, and I don't mind that. But it's certainly been interesting just to kind of observe, the similar behaviours, whether you're an agent in Adelaide or Auckland or Sydney or Melbourne. There's the kind of the same sort of patterns that move through high quality salespeople. And it comes back to the initial conversation, Michael, where my mindset has changed a lot recently. I think that typically if we've got a low performing salesperson in an organisation, we'll bring in the sales trainer or the coach, or they'll sit down with the principal or HR or whatever it might be, and we say the same things every single time, which is, you should make more calls. It's kind of like the only kind of strategy we've got in the kit bag as an industry, as a leader, is you should make more calls, or you should knock on more doors, or whatever it might be, right? So My thoughts now for salespeople is if you can get I say better people make better real estate agents. So I'm more focused these days on like, okay, you've been at Harris now for 12 months or 6 months or a year or two. We do so much training. There's so much content available. Harris or wherever. You can jump online. You can become a member here, a member there. So I'm more interested in why you're not doing the things that you know you should be doing. So I think that the first core observation for me of great salespeople, generally speaking, there's less disturbance going on outside of their real estate career that's enabling them to focus on the 3 or 4 key things that actually matter as a salesperson. And most of the stuff that most salespeople are doing is really a waste of time. But because the industry allows such flexibility to the point where they can come and go as they want and really have no accountability, it's actually fertile soil for growing highly incompetent people. And that might sound like a nasty comment, but the industry just thrives on doing nothing.
Yeah, the adult daycare kind of thing sort of comes up in that process. Now, if you're an agent listening to this, can you make sure you've got a low sensitivity meter? Because Phil's coming from the right intention here, as opposed to doesn't Phil know how hard I work? It doesn't Michael know how hard I work? Well, of course we do. But this is very much not the harder part, it's the smarter part, and making sure you are focused on the things. You know, Phil, I did some research, and this is years ago now, when the average agent is showing up 50 to 60 hours per week. They're actually dollar productive, somewhere between 8 and 12 hours per week. So, you know, a lot of people go, well, that's bad. That's exciting because you can double your productivity without doubling the number of hours you work. And that's the smart thing that people need to I think, take on board with it.
Yeah, and that's and so we've got to, I think as as coaches and leaders, we've got to get better at unlocking why aren't they spending more time in that 12 hours that you just spoke about? Yeah. What's the kind of self-defeating behavior of beating up on yourself where you know you should be doing this, but we're just kind of surfing the web, or you know you should be doing this, but we're fluffing around on emails. Like, it's what's driving you to self-sabotage so much. And so that's maybe where I spend more of my time these days, and just trying to unpack the person and what's going on personally. How can we get them feeling fitter, healthier, stronger, whatever it might be, so they can come in and focus on probably what I want to talk about next is, the second key thing that I see for people who are doing well is they just got total clarity over what it is that they should be doing, right? And for me, that hasn't changed in my 20 years, which is the behaviors of a great real estate agent. You see them getting a good night's sleep, they wake up early, a bit of exercise, morning routine, into the office early to have a meeting with themselves or with their team. You have got, buyer managers, PAs, those sorts of things. That team meeting has an agenda. Then they're jumping on the phone for half an hour, ringing all of their vendors, giving daily updates. Then they're entering into a couple of call sessions pre-midday to get that kind of between 1 and 3 hours of prospecting done before midday. Then they're kind of finished with their prospecting. They'll do maybe hour of catching up on returning calls, emails, preparing for the afternoon appointments. And then in the afternoon, they're doing 3 to 5 face-to-face appointments. And that's the formula and those appointments are either buyer appointments or price adjustment appointments or listing appointments. That's the form. I haven't seen it change in 20 years, Michael, right? Yeah. But great salespeople is like, I speak at conferences and people pay me to come and, I don't know, I just keep saying that for the last 20 years. Like, that's what you've got to do. And that's, if you talk to James Tosser, if you speak to Matt Steinway, if you speak to Tom Hector, if you speak to, Kate Strickland, all of these guys, like, that's just what, James Rickard, they just come in and they literally just focus on those 5 things, So how do we strip away all of the other stuff? And how do you set yourself up to modify behavior, to reward yourself for that behavior? That's the challenge that we're trying to unpack.
And I think, Phil, a big part of that is loving that routine. So loving the simplicity of the routine and saying, bang, I'm going to jump into this, as opposed to, I want to change it up, Actually, this is the key that unlocks. And occasionally, I think some people say, oh, that's so basic. No, it's essential. Because basic sounds like it's not that important. Essential is the ingredient that's going to drive the level of success that you have in the business.
Yeah, and probably the biggest difference I've seen between great agents and people who are struggling is that You know, you look at someone like James Tosson, who's probably, you know, been best agent in the country for, you know, a number of decades. Yeah, is he that good? And James would mind me saying this. Yeah, he's very good. But you know what makes James, or James and others, is they are just so consistent every single day. So there are a lot of agents that could do what James does for one day, right? But that's not what makes people like that special. It's the ability to do that 5 days per week. That's the secret sauce about this industry, right? So the agents that can back it up day by day. So I think that we need to do more training, more coaching around teaching agents how to get leverage on yourself to encourage and foster that behavior. So if, you know, if that means, I try and teach my guys here that just like, you might not enjoy prospecting, you might not enjoy the rigmarole of it, but win the war before 11 a.m. Between 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. is heavy lifting. That's when it is hard work. That's the hard work. Get in there, get that meeting done, start on time, ring those vendors, make those prospecting calls, get the data done. Then the afternoons, I talk about AM and PM energy. So AM, you are going to have to do your heavy lifting. And like, if that takes a couple of, you know, long macchiatos and a couple of piccolos, whatever it might be, to get yourself wired and go, you've got to hit it out of the park before 11 a.m. But the afternoons, Michael, that's when real estate should be really fun. That should just be you're face to face, you're engaged. And obviously, our friends in Melbourne, not quite there at the moment, but it will come good. But that's when you're in people's lounge rooms. That's when you're meeting people at a coffee shop. That's when you're negotiating a deal. That should be, it's more of a relaxed edge. So reward yourself in the afternoon. The pressure should be off. It's not high anxiety all day, but the morning should be go, 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 get it done. And then after 11, we reward ourselves and it's a different, softer energy.
Yeah, Phil, just great advice with this. And, you know, a lot of people do gym in the morning for that exact reason, because I've done my gym. It was hard work, but I know I'm going to be more effective for the day. I agree. Agents put those 8 to 11 hours in, that it transformed their business in a major way. Fantastic.
I think what you're saying there is absolutely correct. And like the scientific research around people who hit the gym early and have that morning routine. The reality is in real estate, you can't guarantee you're going to win today. Deals are going to fall over. You are going to lose listings. Someone may hang up on you, so you can't guarantee a win. But there's a psychological edge for people that you can definitely go to the gym and get a session done. So like you are wired with a win before you start the day at work, and that's a win that you can control. So yeah,
well, like that wide for the win. I love it.
There you go.
Yeah. So then, you know, one of the things that I talk a lot about is building super teams, and you know, this is a tough business to be in solo mode as opposed to building a team around you. I know you're big on that philosophy.
Yeah, I am. I think kind of the next thing for me is like we spoke about it before, and this is maybe the biggest shift I've seen in real estate in the last 10 to 5 years, Michael, is that there has definitely been a shift towards, there are some genuine leadership skills that are being fostered and developed amongst great salespeople now. I think we've always, whether metaphorically, realistically or not, I don't know, but we've always spoken about great salespeople. You know, we talk about the one-ton gorilla or whatever that sits in the corner and whatever, but what I'm seeing now with great salespeople is servant leadership is becoming a trained skill set in agents that are doing really well. So I think that previously it was me as a salesperson. Now, and definitely in our organisation, we've seen it. I'm seeing with other great agents around the country, they are spending their time mentoring one or two co-agents in their team, mentoring the team manager. I think some people before, you know, it was like, you know, the first kind of migration industry was a good agent might have one PA. Then we kind of spoke about going to teams and those sorts of things. The deep down kind of belief structure of salespeople was, I want a PA that's good, but I don't want them to be too good because then they might leave me. Does that make sense? Yeah. So there was kind of this glass ceiling philosophy across the industry, which is be a good PA, but don't ever leave me because you work for me, you owe me your firstborn. You should never leave me and go anywhere. You should always work for me. Whereas what I'm seeing great salespeople now, and there's other people on this call listening, and I've seen them do it really well. They use their team as a training platform to bring people through, you know? So they're putting energy and effort into growing and mentoring people. But what poor leaders don't realize, I think, So, well, whatever the saying is, what if you don't train people? I don't want to train people because they might leave. And if you don't train people, what happens if they stay, right? We've all heard people say that.
Yeah.
Reality is, when you build a reputation for being somebody who's great to work for, you build a reputation for being a mentor and a great grower of people. When you're known for building great culture, I'm not talking as a business owner, just because you as a salesperson. I got to tell you, you will never ever have a shortage for the best talent in your town for young people queuing up to come and work in your team. So somebody that works alongside you, they do 5 years, they come on as a cadet. In 5 years' time, they're writing $1 million because they worked as your buyer agent for 5. You have no problem in getting the next best 25-year-old in your town to come and be your co-agent. And that's the biggest shift I've seen. Servant leadership, growing others, and fostering talent, as opposed to limiting people just to stay here and work for me. And so building people around them, that's the next key, that's the game changer. That's the game changer I've seen in the last 5 years particularly.
That's just such a strong value point, I think, Phil, because if agents could make that shift, and it's an altruistic view, it's not just self-focused, it's actually now, okay, there's a broader game here. And if I've been, and for most of the guys we're talking about, real estate's been incredibly good to them over a number of years, why wouldn't you give back? Why wouldn't you impart those skills and bring people through? And I love the fact that a lot of the time, an ineffective leader, they've got a hole and they go, I need to fill this hole, and they'll grab the first person they can find. What you've just spoken of is, I've got people lining up, and literally in a mode of saying, okay, when I'm ready, I'll tap you on the shoulder and come and join me. That's a totally different game plan to be able to create a team that has serious longevity and serious momentum.
And to be really honest, that's been my entire core philosophy about not only Harris Real Estate, but pre-Harris. That was always my focus. I've always just had a passion for serving, growing, helping, building people. And so when Harris grew so quickly, particularly in those early years, like people want to, what have you done? Have you done TV ads? Have you done bus billboards? Why do all these people want to join Harris Real Estate? Well, that wasn't because I was out there recruiting. I was out there saying, hey, how do I grow people? And I built a reputation, or then the brand built a reputation that in Adelaide, if you want to grow, Harris is a great place to be to grow your career. Now, if you're a salesperson right now, you might not do that at an organisation level, but you can certainly do that in your team. You know what? People want to queue up to get into your team because you've got a reputation for building, growing, serving people.
By the way, I love that. So what size billboards do I need to have to grow my business?
Yeah. Or tell me the social media campaign, or which bus was it, or how much did you spend? Like, no, just grow the people, grow them.
Yeah, fantastic. The next point I've got down here is short-term, long-term thinking.
Yeah, it's just an awareness that, you've got to have an absolute appetite for the kill, which is today's deal, right? And particularly in this market we've got right now, there's limited stock supply. You can't afford to be running second right now. You've got to absolutely get your deals put together. So great salespeople, they are all over. Where's my next listing? Hustle, 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 right? But at the same time, great salespeople take the mindset that we spoke about before, which is the daily improvements, which is that long-term thinking. I remember hearing, I think James spoke at ARIC a few years. He said he still gets excited when somebody says they're selling in 7 years' time. It's like, okay, great. I'll put them in my database. I know that nobody else will ring them once a quarter and send them this, and this for whatever it might be for the next 7 years. So just average salespeople, it's like they don't get excited when somebody says I'm selling in 4 years. In fact, average salespeople, it's almost like an inconvenience if somebody says I'm not going to market for another 18 months. Like average salespeople, actually, I want somebody who's ready to list today. I want somebody who's going to pay me full fee. I want somebody who's going to pay me full marketing, and they want option, and I want them to be really conservative with their price expectations. Well, that's not how it works in the real world. So short term, hustle deals, but what are you doing today to build a long-term sustainable business? That means the way you're building your database. It means your business plan. It means the staff that you're investing in. So great salespeople aren't thinking about, am I going to be here next year? It's like, am I setting myself up for the next decade or two? So if you're making those sort of decisions, are very different to short-term players who are only looking for today's deals.
Yeah, fantastic insight. Absolutely love it. And the final point out of these five, Phil?
Yeah, it's probably a little bit like the third point, like the biggest evolution I've seen, maybe the two biggest evolutions I've seen in the last 5 years. One is, as I said, is around that leadership and growing people, like that's becoming that skill set.
Yeah.
And the final one is people actually getting serious about the professionalization of running a proper business plan for their business and just being highly organized. So I know that our top guys here now, like they're no longer winging it, I should say. They have got documented budgets and plans of this marketing's going out at this date. This is our key, our core theme for the quarter. Here's who we are targeting. Right, that's being done. They're doing strength analysis of their team, going, okay, my buyer agent is currently only generating 200 grand in fees to the team. I want to grow them in the next 12 months to being a 300K contributor to our team. Let's do a skill set analysis. Right. So this person, they're good at buyer work, they're good at, whatever work, but they're not good at listing yet. My co-agent, I need to actually get some coaching and some training to get them up, because if I can get them better at listing, they can generate 5 more listings per year by not losing, right? So the business plans that I'm now starting to see for the best salespeople, Michael, I see better sales plans for salespeople than what I do for most businesses out there. Like great salespeople are taking this really seriously now, because they can earn serious money by actually getting themselves organized and having a plan. So these business plans have got their marketing schedules attached to it. They've got personal growth development plans for every single team member. They've got the team members' goals. They've got implementations. They've got big threes for quarterlies, annuals, 3 years. And so I've started to see a lot more effort and focus in those areas in the professionalization of what they're doing.
And Phil, how long do you think that planning process should take, or what are you seeing that takes?
Well, the way we do it here, it's been a real evolution for us over the last 3 years, but we do it, we take our top guys off-site and we run separate business plans depending on where you're at in kind of the fees you're doing. So an elite salesperson's business plan is different to somebody starting at day one. We take them off-site for a full day and we go through basically a template of everything that they should be focusing on, and it changes and it evolves every single year. It gets simpler and it gets better, and sometimes it gets bigger, sometimes it gets shorter. So it's a full day of like brainstorming all of the core categories of what it is that they should be focusing on. Then those elite teams, they go away and they take another whole day out by themselves to actually implement and document all of the work that was done during that planning day. So good teams are taking, and our top teams as well, Michael, they've got meeting rhythms in place where they are reviewing that business plan at their weekly meeting, at their monthly, at their quarterly offsite, at their half year. They're having half year planning days, and then they're having that full year 1 or 2 day planning day as well. So that's how it's working. What I'm seeing with the best guys now, anyway.
Music to my ears, Phil. Music to my ears, and I think
some of these top sales guys, Michael, like that, they're more successful than probably 80% of small businesses in the country. Like if you're writing $2 million and the profitability that they make, like it's not a kind of like a business. It's a business. It is. It's got marketing arms. It's got revenue arms. It's got cost centers. It's like, so great operators are running it like that.
Yeah. And look, to step back and no doubt your guys feel incredibly well supported. I love the development day, if it were, to shine the torch onto different areas of the business, to get them thinking about it and contributing to them, and then for them to go away and say, let's strategize on these. That's a group session for, say, all the elite performers. Yes.
Correct.
100%. Yeah.
Correct.
Great.
So elite guys, they do a full day together and say, right, now you got all the content. I can't do it for you. You now go away and implement, put that into the format that you like.
Yeah, and they'd be loving it, I'd imagine.
Yeah. And it's evolved each year, but it's really interesting. So our top 4 salespeople at Harris now, this year will all do somewhere between 150 and 220 sales in that. So they're high volume what they're doing, but none of those guys joined us as top performers. They've all grown into being top performers by small daily improvements over a long period of time equals success. So their business plans today are better than what they were a year ago, and they're far better than what they were 3 or 4 years ago. You know?
Yeah, fantastic. Phil, this has been a treat for me, and I think for the people who are listening in. You know, you're one of those real estate people who are fantastic at doing the operational aspects of growing a great business, and also have the ability to articulate that to others to be able to make it simple to apply, easy to understand, and importantly then can take action and put it in place. So on behalf of everyone who's tuned in and Navigate, I want to sincerely thank you. Wish you incredibly well for the next 12 months and beyond. I know it's going to be an amazing ride. Looking forward to seeing how that ride goes. And, you know, I'm here to support you in the best way possible.
Yeah,
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Michael, and for everybody tuning in. Thanks for having me. Hope you've got a few ideas. If I can help you out, just reach out. Always happy to help. All right.
Not a few ideas, Phil. A lot of ideas came out of this, and I think anyone who wants to, and we'll make sure we can get a recording of this too, to review this recording, look at the key points, and then say, okay, what am I going to put in place? Recognizing that Harris wasn't built in a day, so this whole Rome wasn't built in a day. So take the time to be able to put the steps in place. This quarter, next quarter, the quarter after, and put those things in place that will really make a difference. Phil, thank you so much for your energy, your commitment, and doing great things.
My pleasure. Take care. Thanks, Michael. Cheers, mate.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.